morning. Welcome to the Inside Out podcast, Healed Inside Out. This morning we have the beautiful Kandice Porter.
Watch out.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today.
How are you today?
You know what? I'm feeling good today.
Good.
I'm feeling good today. No complaints.
Good. You know, it wouldn't do you no good anyway.
And wouldn't. And would not. Okay.
So we could complain all we want to, but it does absolutely nothing.
It doesn't do anything. So I'm feeling good today. Wow. It's a busy season for me.
Okay. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But you want to know what? I'm rolling with it.
Amen. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you have that attitude,
Thank
right?
you.
Because as business women, it don't stop for us.
It
Especially when
doesn't.
you're a mother, when you're a wife, and then you handling your business.
Yeah.
Come on,
All
the
the
job
things.
don't stop for
All
us,
the
right?
things. It
Till we
doesn't
lay our
stop.
head, and I think even as we talked not too long ago, it don't even stop then. Because if you got a baby that wake up in the middle of the night because something going on, guess what? You back on duty.
You know what? Let me tell you something about the baby that wakes up at night. We have 6-year-old twins.
Oh my goodness.
6-year-old twins.
Okay.
And they get up every single night
What?
and come and sleep with us.
Oh my goodness. Mm.
Every single night.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Are they afraid or?
No. I mean, I'm like, you guys have each other. Why are you guys getting up every night? So
Wow.
they so they get up every night, and I don't know what to do about it, but I blame my husband.
Yeah. Why? Look, it's his fault.
It's his fault. And the reason why, okay, so we're just going to jump right into it. So our oldest recently went to college.
Okay.
So she is in Philadelphia right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
She goes
ma'am.
to Temple University.
Okay.
So he's like, well, he always starts feeling like he needs extra. Like he's really needy right now. And I'm like,
Oh, because his baby girl gone.
yeah. I'm like, but I'm here.
Right.
But oh well. So he's like, well, I'll just situate them where they're closer to me and they won't be so close to you.
Oh,
So
my
they crowd around
goodness.
him. So there's 4 of us in the bed.
You got like that.
Ain't nobody
California-
praying.
Look.
Ain't nobody praying. 4. No, we don't have a California king.
Well, you know what? I'll be praying for you, sister.
Thank you. Thank you.
We got to get that fixed.
They do not start there. So I make sure that they always start in their own bed.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's for the intimacy part, okay?
Come on.
But I,
Blocking.
you know what I'm saying. So I make sure to put them in their bed. But sometime around like 1 or 2,
Yeah.
they will make their way to our room.
Wow.
What if I lock them out?
Oh no.
See,
That might
you-
cause some trauma.
See, that's what I'm saying. They're gonna be with
So-
us until forever.
No, I think there probably is a way to wean them out of there. But first, you got to work on Daddy. You got to work on Daddy.
it's his
Kinda
fault.
get him to.
Yeah, it's
like,
his fault.
You okay? I got you.
My God, you're gonna be okay.
And they okay.
You're
like,
okay.
That is hilarious.
So anyway, I dove off that deep end because you said even when we're asleep we're not. And
Yeah.
I felt that.
Well, see, look, that part. Well, listen, you guys, I met Kandice at a pitch conference as we were both supporting Amber Joy, who is the founder of Quiver. Shouts out to Amber.
Absolutely.
And so I met Kandice there, and we just hit it off.
We did.
We realized that we are both on the same track. The
Absolutely.
encouragement, the motivational, to help women get,
Absolutely.
their stories out, to talk about the healing journeys, to just really give people a safe place
Sure.
to come and talk.
Yeah.
Be it, I do mine through my coaching business as well as through the podcast. Kandice also does hers live on Facebook.
Yeah.
We'll give you that information so you can definitely go and support this sister. you know, you gotta your heart is big to be able to do that, because some of these stories come and they hard, they heavy to hear.
They're heavy to hear,
but you know and understand they need that space, right?
Yeah, and they're heavy to hear, but they're also heavy to tell.
Oh my God, that part, that's probably the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. And they're heavy to tell. And so when we met each other just a couple days ago, like that is how literally we met each other a couple of days ago. Yes. And our hearts just instantly connected, and we were able to even just share some stories, even in that short 5-minute span that we had to talk to one another. Yes. And I was like, man, I really feel this with Natea. I love the work that she's doing.
Amen. Thank you.
And then knowing that, man, Black women, we are struggling with our stories.
We are.
We're struggling with our stories, and we're struggling because we're ashamed, and there is guilt, and there's trauma. There's so much around why we don't share it.
Yes.
So then we just don't. And so then we cause ourselves more internal harm.
That's correct.
Than what we feel would happen if we just shared it.
That's correct.
And I remember asking you, I said, hey, how do you feel ever since you started sharing your story? And you were like, I feel free.
Yes. Amen. And I absolutely do.
Yeah. I feel
absolutely
free.
Do. Yes.
And I know that you've shared your story, but I think the thing that stands out to me about your story, and this is what I stress to Black women, is that I find it interesting that you went through so much sexual trauma as a child.
Yes.
But you ended up being an intimacy coach.
I know that part just kind of seems.
But the reason why I'm like, that is so profound to me, because it's just how God works, right? God will take your mess.
You better talk about it.
He'll take your mess and he'll turn it into something
good,
so beautiful, to where, and just to share a little bit about myself around trauma. So when I was about 16 years old, I worked at Toys R Us on Colorado Boulevard. Are you a Denver native?
Yes, I'm aware.
So I worked there, and I was walking home from work. I was getting off of the bus at night, okay? So when I was walking, I seen somebody I was like, is that somebody up there? Maybe not, I don't know. So I stopped for a little bit, but kept on walking. So as I was walking, I felt a gun at the back of my head.
No, come on.
Okay? And he said, he led me to the side of a house, and I was sexually molested, right? But when he left, he said, don't tell anybody, right? Then we talked about that on Friday. So he said, don't tell anybody. And I said, okay. So I promised, I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody. But of course, by the time I got home, I was just in hysterics. But that's my story, right?
Yes.
That's my story. But I'm able to take that and not let it be the determining of how I'm going to live my life.
That's right.
I know people who have experienced trauma or molestation. It just changes their lives.
It does.
Not always for the better.
I know that.
So I'm grateful that I'm being able to sit here and say, you want to know what? I went through that, but not only that, I was still able to get married.
Yes.
Enjoy having an intimate relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I'm also able to then teach my girls on, listen, you guys better be mindful and aware of your surroundings, and just to share freely
how you feel, what you're going through.
Yeah. Like I think about like my mom's generation. They didn't share.
They did.
They didn't share.
They did. We talk about that quite frequently.
Yes.
It was a taboo to share. You don't tell on your uncle. You don't tell on your dad.
Yes.
That's gonna make the family look bad. That's gonna make me look bad.
Absolutely.
Just go on. You're gonna be all right. We're gonna get through this.
We'll get through it.
And I think that has passed down to, some of our generation.
Absolutely.
As we talked, similarly in my situation, being raped at knife point and being told, don't say nothing.
Don't say nothing.
Or, I'm going to kill your mother. Whereas a child, you're not going to say nothing.
Yes.
So for years, I didn't.
Yes.
For years I didn't. And so I understand it. And then I dealt with, not at my own hands, but I dealt with guilt and shame and embarrassment. And what I do, right? What did I do?
What did I do?
And why am I carrying this guilt?
Absolutely.
I think that, we're not born into having to, excuse me, we're not born into having to fight for our lives like that. You're just not born with that. So those are things that kind of came in. And so, I didn't tell. I didn't tell for a long time. Absolutely. But then that affected me just as a woman. Yes. Just as not talking and speaking up when things happened again. Absolutely. Because it wasn't just that time. Yeah. It started, unfortunately, there. But there were other incidents that happened. And I still didn't say nothing, even though I could have. Yes. Even though I could have, but that piece that was taken at such a young age was more stronger than, because I fought it. I thought about it. Yes. I fought it in my head. I'm like, I'm going to tell. Yes. I'm just going to, and at that time there were no weapons involved in the other situations, but there was that fear of what's going to happen if I say something, like they're going to come back and get me. I had children. Yes. So I'm like, are you going to get my kids? Right. What's going to happen if you tell my husband, like, oh my God, is he going to think that I wanted this or allowed it, or, because even I can remember even this part, mentioning it to him later down the road when I was able to talk about it finally, and him not understanding, like, why don't you just say something like that's dumb, that's stupid. Right. And I'm like, you know what, be slow. Be slow. You cannot say that about people who don't speak up immediately or instantly, because you don't know the trouble that they went through. You don't know their story.
You just don't know.
And so I've never been, I've always advocated for women who, come out years later and be like, oh yeah, 10 years ago he raped me. She probably was not able to say so then for many reasons. Right?
That is so good.
Yeah. So that's so a big part of why we don't tell.
Yeah. And that's, even as you're talking, some things are kind of getting stirred up in me, is because so much, I was talking to my mother-in-law and we were just talking about some statistics about women and sexual trauma and how much, you guys, I cannot believe the statistics on this, and just how much women have been traumatized sexually than those who haven't.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I was just thinking about I'm thinking about your story, and then it also ties into my passion on why I am so determined to get Black women to tell their stories, is because it starts from such a young age. Yes. And so it's embedded in us. Don't say nothing. Don't do this. You don't want to look like this. You don't want to appear this way. You don't want to offend such and such. Yes. And so you're just packing on this stuff. You're packing on this stuff because you don't want to do X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
But in the process, your story is just in there, bottled up, not knowing or knowing who it can really help. Yes. And so then I'm like, no, what's the story? Yeah. Like you said, we don't have to get into names and we don't have to be into specifics. Yes. But just so that you feel I got it out.
You got it out.
I can't tell you how many stories it took for me to feel like, man, I got it out.
Oh man, I told you. I went through that intense therapy when you're going 3 times a week and you're talking about it. You're getting it out. You're getting it out. I cried. I was, I was afraid sometimes. I had the medication even sometimes because there were times where I thought I'm losing my mind. Like, this is really impacting me, which probably is another reason why people don't tell. Healing is hard.
Ooh.
Healing is hard. hard. You have to put that all out on the table. You got to deal with the feelings of that.
You have to.
And further, one of the things that I had to deal with was, you know, our bodies just react the way that they do.
Yes.
Right? Even though our minds, our hearts, and our homegirls,
Yes.
it's connected to a degree. However, when touched and doing things, your body still has the potential to respond the way that it naturally is supposed to.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, in a couple of situations, my body responded naturally like it would. And I had to deal with that. Like, why wouldn't you just shut off? Like, why you keep going like that was a good thing? You know what I'm saying? And that's hard to deal with. That's hard to put on the table.
Absolutely,
It really
hard.
is.
Yes.
So you're right. There is it's hard to talk about.
It's hard. And I like to be a safe space.
Yes.
And I like to be, because I didn't necessarily have a safe space.
Yes.
I didn't have a safe space, and when I was growing up, because I didn't have that, I felt myself as I was a mom. We have an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then the twins are 6.
Okay.
So I felt myself going down that road of not being a safe space for my kids, right?
Okay.
We absolutely cannot afford to not be a safe space for our kids in this
Pin
generation.
Pin that. Yes.
We can't. And not only do I strive to be a safe space, but I want to be a safe, comfortable space where they feel like they can come to me and say, Mom, what is this? What's going on here? And that I'm open and that I'm honest with what I'm telling them.
Yes.
And that it's not coming from a superficial, I don't want to really get into it because I don't want you to.
Yes.
I just want to be free to say,
yes.
Sometimes I overshare. They're like, Mom, dang. I'm like, listen.
If I don't tell you somebody, you're going to
somebody's
get it from somebody.
Listen, y'all got TikTok and
yes.
knick-knack and paddywhack. Give a dog a bone. You know what I'm saying? They got everything at their fingertips. So I'm like, listen, you're going to get it from me, and I'm going to give you the real.
Girl, you crazy for that. But I understand.
But you know what I
right?
mean? They have everything at their fingertips. It's so different from when we were growing up.
Yeah.
But I want to be that safe space for them, and I want them to know, like, it's going to be hard for me to have some conversations.
Yes.
But I'm going to get in there with you. I'm going to have it no matter how much I need to put my pride and ego aside to have it. And that wasn't afforded to me when I was growing up.
Yeah. And you know what? My mother, you know, my mother's no longer here, but my mother did the very best that she could with what she had and knew, right? Because, again, coming from a generation where you couldn't talk about it until she had limited what she was able to share and talk. Now, she did have conversation with us.
Sure.
You know, we talked about birds and bees kind of thing, but I don't recall having, like with my daughters, you know, and just being real and raw and transparent when they want to talk about, you know, how you perform certain actions with your partner and all those things. Okay, let me show you something. You know, let me show you what this was like, because really, if I don't, somebody is going to.
Somebody's going to.
You know, so I think sometimes we look at it as oversharing or going too far, but you almost have to.
You have to.
You have to literally put yourself in a space in this type of society right now, where you, like you said, they have everything at their fingertips. So let me be that person too, because I'm gonna be the real with you. Because see, whoever Mojo is that you with, he's not gonna tell you the sexual diseases that you can get with it. He's not gonna tell you all that kind of stuff, right? So you need to know all of it.
Absolutely,
right?
And I think even with that, if in fact they're going to say pornography. That can turn into an addiction.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you're going down a whole different road. Like it's just so I'm so glad that, and I am happy that I'm in this space where I'm allowing, because it's not just the story for Instagram, and it's the story for your kids. It's the story for your grandkids. It's the story, and not only the story, but the muscle that's being worked to share the story,
Yes.
right? Because a lot of the times it's just that muscle that needs to be exercised so that you can get past the feeling of the other side of, okay, I need to share my story, but I'm right here, but I don't want to go all the way. I was talking to my friend Kandice this morning, and she was saying, Kandice, you get these women when they're ready to push, right? So I had 2 C-sections. So I always tell people I have 4 kids, but I only leave them pregnant twice. People are like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just don't even try to do the math. Right. So my oldest is my step, but she's mine.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we had my 14-year-old and the twins.
Yes.
But I never naturally pushed a baby out. But I'm laboring on behalf of the black women now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, you can do this. You can tell your story. I know it. I know it's the contractions are hitting you and you're getting it. You're like, I know. But all you got to do is just push. Push. And they're like, I don't. I'm like, so if you keep that story inside of you, it's going to kill you. So just think about if, in fact, you don't push your baby out. Okay, we're thinking about the laboring process.
Yes.
And all the things are happening. The contractions are happening. You're dilating. You're ready. If, in fact, you just stop pushing, what would happen? You can put yourself in jeopardy.
Yes.
You can put the baby in jeopardy.
Absolutely.
And that is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't want you to put yourself in jeopardy anymore. People are like, well, Kandice, I'm like, you have no idea. I had to go to my husband, okay? My husband is recovering from alcoholism.
Okay.
He's going on year 4. And I'm so grateful.
Congratulations.
This is my high school sweetheart, right?
Oh, wow.
We've been together forever. We've been married for 16 years. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's not
Thank you.
minimize that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I
Congratulations
just thank you so much. I'm so proud of him.
Yes.
And it was only God that did it.
Yes.
But in the middle of his addiction, he was lost in his addiction, and I was lost in an affair.
Oh, wow.
I said, you can have your addiction. You can do whatever. I'm going to be over here.
Oh, wow.
Okay? I kept that a secret from him for 5 years.
Oh, wow. 5
Okay?
years?
5 years. One day I was on my way home from church, and God was like, hey, Kandice. I was like this. I was like this. What?
Yeah.
Today's your day. I was like, today's my day to do what? He's like, I need you to come out and talk about your infidelity. I was like this. Today's not my day, and I'm not going to do it, and I'm not. But the second that I knew, I was on the phone calling my husband saying, I need to talk to you when I get home. And I was like, God, I don't know what's going on. So I got home. That was the birthing, right?
Yes.
The contractions were there. The contractions were me calling and saying, I need to talk to you, being accountable, knowing that I had something to tell him when I got home.
Yes.
I get home, and I'm like, oh, my God, what is going on? What's going on? But once it passed my lips, I said, God, it's out. What are you going to do now? And it was a mess. I was like, see, God, this is stupid. I knew I shouldn't have said nothing. But what was on the other side of that?
Come on, talk about it.
He blessed us. That's where the twins came from.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Okay.
That's where the twins came from. We were so busy trying to make up and, you know, and so the twins, we conceived the twins. It was eventually the road to his sobriety.
Oh, my God.
It allowed me to open up and be vulnerable to other women who's experiencing the very same thing. It allowed me to show God, or it allowed God to show me him in a different way. Like, Kandice, I will tear all this stuff up.
Come on.
I will literally tear all this stuff up, but I'll put it back together better than what you've ever expected. And so now I'm able to share my story freely. I was in fear that someone was going to tell my story for me.
Yes.
So then they're telling my story for me, and I'm like, you forgot that detail. No, it didn't happen like that. It didn't happen. So in order to avoid all that, honey, this is what I did.
Wow.
This is what I did. And I was beside myself. But when I tell you, we reached 16 years of marriage. We are in sweet 16.
Oh, yes.
When I tell you I am he's always like, I am crushing on him. Like, when I tell you, I'd be like this, why you so fine? Though? Like, you fine for real. He's like, Kandice. I'm like, but you really are, because he looks different. He's just different.
Amen.
Like, and because I know that I don't have anything hanging over my shoulders.
Oh, that part.
You know, I don't
have. Be free. It's
I can be free. I can be liberated. And anybody, if they ever try to say in front of me or him, well, Kandice, remember when you was lost in your infidelity? Yeah, I do remember that. Yes. But I came to him and I told him what I needed to say.
Yes.
And as a result, even though it was messy, he respected it. We both took accountability for our actions.
That part.
And we were able to move forward to enjoy the beauty of our marriage right now.
Right.
Because it is so beautiful. And so if I didn't share that with him, I wouldn't be able to sit right here today and say, yes, I was lost in infidelity, but we overcame.
Like I said, I'm living in my overcoming.
You said it.
So are you guys.
Yes.
That's a good feeling.
It's... When I tell you, it's such a good feeling. Our kids are seeing us healthy and happy. And we
that's
get on,
important.
It is. We get on their nerves. Like, Mom.
Get a room or something.
I'm like this. My room is upstairs. And if y'all come into the room at any given point, you might see anything. So don't come in here like that.
Knock and wait to
Don't knock and wait. Like, for real. But I'm just so happy to be there, because I'd rather show them over affection that may be gross to them.
You better believe that.
But as opposed to a messy household where we're fighting and going back and forth and I can't stand you and
and that's toxic. That's unhealthy. It's trauma. It's trauma, and then it gives them, like, maybe that's how they're going to pick up and treat theirs. I mean, we got to stop these cycles.
We got to stop it.
That is so amazing that you guys are at that space. And it's even amazing, you know, we have to be grateful for our trials. Because sometimes our trials is what grows us, right? And so I'm grateful for your trial. I mean, do I condone relationship, infidelity and all that? No, but if that happens... And then God calls you, it's your story, and he calls you to tell on yourself.
Yeah. Ooh.
Look, the recovery, the restoration of your marriage, the healthiness that, I mean, there's so much glory in it. But you know who gets the glory is God.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? So then that shows a whole nother part.
Oh.
Right? Because when you're telling people, you know what, just trust God. Are you praying?
Yeah, are you praying?
It's giving them that visual, because sometimes people want to see, like, you know, I don't even know if God's real and blah, blah. But that actually gives someone a visual.
That's right.
Right? Like, he did this. This is a tangible thing. You can put your hands on this marriage.
Absolutely.
You can see the restoration.
Yeah.
And then, man, that's such a powerful that's such a powerful story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm even more grateful. I mean, I've been grateful since I met you, you know, a few days ago. And it seems like, you know, we've just been in this thing for
Absolutely.
for friends forever.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was going to say around, you were saying about the restoration and God. The thing is that people were like, I mean, you name it, they're like, what? Yes. You told him what?
Right.
And I was like, listen, this had nothing to do with me. This is everything God. God told me to do it. But it took me being in God's face. He was like, Kandice, you're not going to be in my face, and you got a whole secret that you ain't telling your husband?
You better talk about it.
You better get away from me, and you better go and talk to your husband, because we're doing our work, but what about your work with him? And I was like, man.
That is so real.
I always say, God did this.
Yes.
My husband was trying to overcome, and he's not afraid to share his story either. That's why I'm sharing it for him.
Well, you know what? He can come on at the table too.
I would love that, because he would love that.
Share his side. That's
powerful. He needs to. He needs to.
He's welcome.
And he's like, Kandice, I was battling addiction let me tell you, when we were in high school, he's an actor.
Okay.
And I remember it was senior year, and they had just got done with doing the play Fame. And I was like, okay, cool. But they did like a cast party after it. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling something like, I feel like he's going to struggle with alcoholism. Mm. I was like, what is that feeling? Like, I feel like this is going to be a problem for him. Mm. And to see it take form in the way that it did, mm-hmm. and then to be like, years later, mm-hmm. I was like, oh my goodness, I seen when this was about to happen. Ooh, wow, so to see it, like to see the journey of it, yes. but to see the overcoming of it. He said, Kandice, God broke that thing just like this. We were in the middle of a Daniel's fast, and he was drinking on the fast. Like, he just couldn't get it together. Mm. And he said, God broke it just like that. Mm. And that is forever my story. Yes. I cannot take the credit. I will never take the credit because God did. He is in charge of my sobriety.
That is so good.
Only God. So yeah, I'd be like this. No, I don't have anything to do with this. These twins, I don't have anything to do with that. Yeah. God, if you can come down and get them together from time to time, like you see us down here struggling.
Can you get them out of my bed?
Can you get them out of my bed? And can you get that youngest one to listen a little better? Yes. But they're truly a gift. Yes. They're truly a gift. And just life right now is just a gift.
Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm. This is such a phenomenal story. Yeah. I mean, and what a mighty move, right?
Absolutely.
And then when, I just made a note in my head about, so when you're talking about you're being, that birthing process for the women and telling their stories, and when you were explaining, obviously the process,
sure.
Labor's painful. Childbirth is painful. Listen. I know it's quick for some folks. Some people are like, mama.
Yeah.
But
yes,
so my labors were 20 plus hours each time.
Hello?
And it was not fun. Mm-mm. It was not pretty. Mm-mm. It hurt so badly. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, your throat is dry. You're
it's
ugly.
Messy. It's messy.
Your hair
you're just all over the place.
It's not, it's not for the weak.
Let me tell you something.
It's not. And so, just to say that when you're talking to these women who, you're sharing that particular process with,
sure.
And I know you probably do, but, make sure they understand, like, that process
it's not. And
it's not pretty.
Yeah,
and it's going to hurt. Ooh. It's going to hurt, but come on. You can make it through that. And even for people who haven't had children or haven't dealt with childbirth yet, let's get an understanding, though.
Be very clear.
Let's be very clear because the journey is it's ugly.
It's so ugly.
It's ugly, but there's a benefit at the end.
My
like
goodness.
That baby be so cute.
So cute. And you're just like, let me smell you. You're so cute.
Yes.
And you share your baby with everybody. They're like, look so beautiful. Yes. And that is exactly how our stories are.
The other side.
It's just the other side.
Yes.
It's ugly. Like I told you, when I went home and told my husband, when I tell you, I was like, this is, no. But to be in that birthing process and to see, like, this was worth it.
Yeah.
This was worth it. And and I'm going to do better about sharing that part with the women. Like, hey, listen, it hurts.
Yeah.
And you're going to need some doulas alongside of you.
Yes, come on.
So you need some midwives. You need some people that are going to help you birth this thing. Because my 14-year-old, I was in labor for almost 20 hours, but guess what? She had to be cut out. They have to get her out. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you may be birthing and you may be in this fight and you may be ready to push, but you're like, all right, the baby's not coming. Well, guess what? We're going to get this baby out. However. And but the goal is to get a healthy baby.
Amen.
That's the goal.
Oh, that's so
and
good.
That you are good.
That's good.
That you're good. That both you and the baby are good.
Yes.
So I love just that work of being in the trenches with the women and saying, yeah, I know that part of the story. Ooh, I know that really hurts.
Yes.
But can you tell me a little bit more about that part?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can see why that happened, and I'm connecting the dots. But can you tell me what was your reasoning for that?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Yes.
You don't know? Well, kind of think about that. Do some journaling around that and see what comes up when you write about that, when you talk about that. Because see, the thing is that your superpower is where your shame is.
Pin that. Pin that. That is so good.
Your superpower is that thing that has you tell on yourself. My superpower is being able to go and have discussions like, yeah, I struggle with infidelity.
Yeah.
But I overcame it.
Yeah.
So that's your superpower is where you have to tell on yourself and where you have to get raw and dirty and you have to get ugly and you have to say, but I did it.
And then just like we said, the freedom of it.
The freedom.
Not having something just always over your head. You know, that always looking around.
Oh my
that thing
goodness.
can come uncomfortable.
Are you kidding? It's just like,
yeah. And then you're ashamed.
You're ashamed.
Yeah. It breeds so much more. And if you're just free. But let me ask you, so when you did tell your husband and you said that, you know, did you go in it just like trusting that God was, however this looked, like did you think that he would be like, oh, you know what, it's over, I'm done with you.
Well, you know what, I told God this when he told me to tell him, because he was still in his addiction.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I was going to ask that too, but
yeah,
okay, let's talk about
he was still in his addiction. I said, God, he's still going to be drinking even after I tell him. But you want me to come clean about mine, but he's still in his mess.
Ooh-wee.
I was getting mad with God. I was talking trash. I was like, God, this doesn't make sense. Like, you know he's still going to be drinking, but I got to come clean. Why?
Yeah.
Because I knew God was the one who told me to tell him, there was some trust in me that knew that he would be the one to put it back together. Even when it was really, really, really ugly, like, I never had the fear that he was going to leave.
Wow.
Like,
that's what I wanted to come out.
I never felt like he was going to be like, Kandice, I'm done with you. I'm out of here. I never got that feeling.
Wow.
So that was the comfort that God gave me in all this. Like, hey, Kandice, I know that it's going to feel real close.
Yes.
Y'all gonna have some really heated conversations and it's gonna get escalated. But I want you to know that in the back of your mind, he's not going nowhere. So that was my saving grace that is okay, so good. You wanna know what? God had this whole thing mapped out exactly how it was supposed to be. And so I trusted God because he was the one to give me instructions on what to do, that he would then be the one to order the steps in the next process.
In that. You can't get away from that.
You can't get away.
That is something that is so valuable and for somebody to grasp. Because sometimes we hear from God to do something and we don't want to do it.
No.
And we have in our own heads the outcome.
Yes.
But if you just trust.
Just trust.
He has also provided the provision of what the story ends. He has the beginning and the ending of our story anyway.
He has it.
So we can go out here and play movie director if we want to.
Hello?
But the story oftentimes doesn't end the way that we think or plan or want it to be.
Absolutely.
And so that's a key takeaway is to, one, you know, trust God.
Absolutely.
Trust God because he has our story. It's already written.
Absolutely.
And so we just have to be obedient.
We do.
And do it because let me tell you something, that took some courage.
Oh my goodness.
That took some courage.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And if I can just say this. It was a time of solitude and isolation.
Oh, you better talk about that.
Okay? I have a lot of friends, but when I tell you, God was like, hey, Kandice, I don't need them in this. I don't need them in your business right now. Because if you start getting outside voices on what I'm trying to do with you and your husband, you're going to get off track.
Listen.
So I know that you're used to picking up the phone and calling.
Listen.
And asking for, you are going to be here. You're not going to call nobody. You're not going to discuss this with nobody because it doesn't make sense to anybody. Because you got away, remember? This happened 5 years ago. So technically, you got away. So then if you go to your friends, what?
Yeah.
This is between me, you, and Baxter. That's it.
That 3-chord strand.
It's a 3. So I need you to be here. We don't have time to talk to nobody. I need you to be focused. So if in fact God, and this goes with anything, if he gives you something to do, if he gives you an assignment, it's really important to stay with God until that thing, happens. Because when you start getting other people in the groove as entrepreneurs, you already know that. People are like, you about to quit your job and do what?
Yes.
Are you making any money from that? Does that even make sense? But when you're like, well, God told me to, first of all, let's get out of the explaining part of it. I don't have to explain anything to you that God told me to do. Because it's not going to make sense to you.
That's a word.
It's not going to make sense to you. So God, this is where I'm at. This is what you told me to do. I'm just going to block those people who I know will not be fruitful in this season. You got to do it. They'll abort the process. They'll abort the pregnancy.
That's a whole word for somebody. That's an understanding. That's some wisdom.
They'll abort the pregnancy.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, reiterating that. And I know that many know it. But you can't tell everybody your story. Then some things that God gives us, that's for us.
It's
right?
For us.
And it will manifest when it's supposed to. There's a timing for everything. And so not all that is downloaded into you are you supposed to get up and start sharing with everybody, showing your hand and showing your cards, right? Do what God told you to do. Sit back and watch that thing take off.
And tell the story on the back end.
Right, tell the story on the back end and enjoy that beautiful baby.
Yes. Wow. Enjoy that baby.
Yes. And again, like you said, that's across the board.
It is. It's
That's
across the
with
board.
anything.
It's across
That's
the
with
board.
anything.
You know how when you're first pregnant and you don't want to tell people?
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't really want to say anything because, we have to make sure that the baby makes it past the first trimester.
Yes.
That's the same thing.
Yes.
And what God's telling you to do. You don't have to go and we got to make sure that the baby is good.
Yes.
And people can project on you. Ooh, girl, when I was pregnant, I didn't make it past 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
And then that starts getting inside of you. And then you're like, man, maybe I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then you start internalizing that, and that can abort the process too.
Yeah. That is so good. I'm sitting up here, and our time has just got wings and just flew by, right?
It did.
We already 50 minutes in. Does it seem like it?
What?
Yeah.
Girl, I felt like we've been talking for 10 minutes.
No.
I knew that. I knew it though. When we were talking at the green spaces, I was like, "Yeah, we can talk."
Yeah,
yeah.
And so I say that to say, I mean, and there are many times that I've sat here and spoke to people. This isn't and can't be a one and done thing.
No.
We do have to wrap up for the time for today.
Sure.
But rest assured, folks, she coming back. This story is so rich and so valuable, and the message inside of this is so pure and authentic. It has to be out. And so not only do I want you to come back, but I
Sure.
would love to have your husband. And
Absolutely.
if he's open,
Oh, he's
I would
open.
love to have your husband come back.
Oh, yeah.
So if he's open,
Yeah.
let's schedule him.
Let's do
Let's
it.
get him on the books and get him in here because
Absolutely.
it's something powerful with the restoration of marriage that both sides of the story
Yeah.
is told.
Absolutely.
Right? Because people get that understanding from the male's perspective,
Sure.
the woman's perspective. It's a
Absolutely.
whole story.
Oh, yeah.
Right, though it doesn't negate your story being your story and everything that you said, but there's power to it
Yeah.
being unity in it.
Yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
even in the trials, the unity in a trial. Come on, man, that
Yeah.
thing comes out differently.
Doesn't it? It does. Thank you,
Whew.
Nate,
So
for this
thank
time.
you.
This was so good.
Man, I don't want to go.
I know. I'm like this. Look at and then.
Right, got my tea. I got my tea over here. We can go ahead and just kick back.
Absolutely. This is so good. And I'm just so happy to be able to share this way. I didn't know what direction we were going to go in, but I'm grateful to be able to share my story to help
it
someone.
goes however it's supposed to go.
Absolutely.
I tell everybody all the time, you can't script this, and so I don't come to the table with a bunch of different questions and things like that. I let people share their story as it is,
Yes.
because that's only you can say that.
Absolutely.
Right, I can
Absolutely.
ask some leading questions, but we're gonna wrap up today, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in. Stay tuned. Miss Kandice is coming back. Miss Kandice's husband is coming back, and Miss Kandice and her husband gonna be back.
Okay, we're going to be back, okay?
We're gonna have them both at the
Yes,
table.
we
got
are.
this.
Yes.
So beautiful. You have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
I love you and I appreciate you.
Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
your vulnerability,
Absolutely.
your candidness.
Absolutely.
You going somewhere with this.
Thank you.
We just gonna stay on track and keep encouraging and motivating.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
I appreciate
So thank you
that.
so much.
Thank you, Nate.